if I had to leave this conversation and you don't take anything else from it, is I really want you to truly understand how incredibly unique and valuable and worthy you are. And if you're in a place where you know that you're accepting less than what you're worth, and even if you have a small inclination and you don't have that self esteem or self worth nailed down, know that the more that you love on yourself and show yourself love, the more that you will start to really appreciate and not accept the bare minimum from anyone. Welcome back to Unique Conversations with Chris podcast. I'm Chris, and today's conversation is something that I have been actually thinking about for quite some time. And to be completely honest, I created a video, I would say about a month ago, about this very topic. As I was going back to edit that video, I felt like there were things that I could have possibly shared more about. I started this podcast because I wanted to share my life in the hopes that it can inspire someone or allow someone to feel seen. I wanted to cultivate an environment where I could create a community of healing, growth, and just being intentional about encouraging each other. And so, in that, as I was editing this video, I felt that there would be some value in me sharing as to how I came up with this intention for my life. And so one of the things that I mentioned in that video that I previously recorded was I want to really encourage and show people how important having self-love is and how crucial it is for you to really understand that the more self-love that you have, the less that you'll be likely to accept less than what you deserve, accepting the bare minimum. It impacts all sorts of relationships with everything from your environment to your relationships, both platonic and non platonic relationships. It can include the relationship that you have with your environment, how clean, how organized it is. It impacts your relationship with yourself. It impacts your relationship with the food and the nutrition that you decide to fuel your body with. It's so many things that self love directly impacts that I really want to drive home the importance of truly knowing yourself, knowing and understanding your worth, and then adjusting the boundaries and no longer accepting the bare minimum. And I came up to this whole idea of accepting bare minimum because the things that I watch on social media, things that I witness from my own life experiences, in addition to the experiences that I am seeing with just some of my close friends. One of the common themes that I've noticed is that there's a point in time where someone makes a decision to no longer accept bare minimum. And that could be, like I said, so many different relationships, including jobs, living situations, etc. But for me in my life, when I recognized that I was not showing myself love, I had to go back and understand how I got to that point. I remember there was one relationship that I was in several years ago, and I remember waking up one morning and I remember feeling really heavy and really bad about myself. And the first thing that I said to myself is, how low do I think of or value myself that I'll allow this person to continue to treat me this way? And when I had that realization, I abruptly made some changes. I abruptly moved out of that situation. But it came to the point to where I want to try my best to inspire someone to not get in that situation to where you're having to wake up with that revelation of saying that my tolerance for how this person is treating me is directly impacting how much I love myself. Or this person treating me this way, and I'm accepting this as treatment, is a direct reflection of how poorly I love myself. And so if I can encourage or inspire someone to not have to have that experience, then I'm more than happy to share things from my life. I would love to say that after that relationship, I went on this self-love journey and I started to try healthy relationships, but I'm sad to say that it wasn't. It took me several years to get to this point to where I am recognizing my codependent tendencies, which means that when I find myself in a place to where I am people pleasing, where I'm putting the needs of others at my own expense, where I'm tolerating or intentionally turning a blind eye to the obvious that this person is showing me their true colors, or I'm noticing that I am not being kind to my body by fueling it with nutrition that I know that will help me ultimately, by choosing to continually to eat the foods or not move my body because I know that doing so or fueling myself with the proper nutrition will ultimately give me the best results, but I'm choosing to stuff it with junk food and binge watch TV all day versus eating nutrient dense food and moving my body frequently. It can be allowing myself to become so consumed with stress and making deadlines at work that I forfeiting good sleep, which I know ultimately impacts my health, my physical and my mental health. So it's just those things that you recognize are bad habits, bad behaviors that not necessarily get you to the best version of you, ultimately not showing yourself love. And I can guarantee you that if you have this luxury car that you really love, I can almost guarantee you that unless it's out of dire necessity, you're not going and putting the anything less than premium gas in it. You're going to take strides and take care and not allow the bare minimum. You're going to take precautions to protect this thing at all costs. I want us to, and I'm saying us because I'm always saying that this is my place of me exploring my areas in life for me to grow as well. But what I really would like to drive home in this conversation is that when you truly love yourself and when you truly value yourself and you know your worth and you know what you bring to the table when it comes to any relationship, then you will quickly identify situations that no longer serve you, or you will remove yourself from situations to where the bare minimum is offered and you know that that's not what you deserve. And you move past that and you go forward to things that you know that are more aligned with your worthiness. And you won't allow, I see a lot of women speaking about things like ghosting or them putting all of this time, effort, and energy into a person who doesn't reciprocate that. And they spend a lot longer than they like to admit on trying to prove themselves worthy so that this person would then switch and change their behavior, or that they feel that this other person recognizes their value. Typically, when people come to shop for these luxury cars or luxury, anything that you buy luxury, they pretty much already know the value of this thing. And so if someone were to come up to this person that's selling this luxury item or this car or whatever the case may be, if I come up here with a bare minimum offer of $5 for this brand new Mercedes, chances are that people at the Mercedes dealership are going to look at me as though I've lost my mind. But if you know the value of your self-worth and you love yourself enough to know that if someone comes up to you and is offering you something way below the threshold of what your value should be, then chances are, if you're in that place of being whole and not in a place of being codependent or trying to prove your worth because you don't know your worth, then chances are you're not going to entertain that relationship or that friendship or that anything that does not align with you, how you value yourself. So to go back to that place to where I woke up that morning and I recognized that the woman that was sitting in front of me that was allowing this treatment in this particular relationship did not deserve it. And making the adjustments that I had to do to my environment to get myself out of that place. If I had to leave this conversation and you don't take anything else from it, is I really want you to truly understand how incredibly unique and valuable and worthy you are. And if you're in a place where you know that you're accepting less than what you're worth, and even if you have a small inclination and you don't have that self esteem or self worth nailed down, know that the more that you love on yourself and show yourself love, the more that you will start to really appreciate and not accept the bare minimum from anyone. I cannot stress enough how important it is to really spend time intentionally loving on yourself and getting to the point to where you radiate so much self-love that people look at you like a luxury item and treat you accordingly. I know that there will still inevitably be those people that will try you because that's just the nature of some people. But the way that you treat yourself and carry yourself will ultimately attract the people and the things that you deserve based on the level of self worth that you have for yourself, the amount of love that you pour into yourself, and the amount of esteem that you have about yourself. And I want to say, as a person who has struggled and even still this day, still have my moments where I have to work hard to make sure that I am constantly building my self esteem, that I don't allow things like self sabotage, people pleasing, codependency, imposter syndrome to impact and influence my life so that I am not allowing my self worth to accept anything than what I deserve and not in a place where I'm feeling like I'm entitled. It's just about things that you deserve. If you find yourself in a place similar to what I described, I want to really encourage you to take the steps necessary to do the things that help you boost your self esteem, find your self worth, know your value, and love yourself completely. Fall madly in love with who you are. If you find yourself relating to any of this conversation and would like to get help in this area, I encourage you to stay tuned to my podcast because I will continue to share more of my story and how I was able to develop and evolve into the person that I am now, as well as follow me at my Uniquely Noble page on social media because in addition to my podcast, I also have Uniquely Noble where I host events and workshops and soon to be retreats to where we will do the very things that reinforce this behaviors that will improve and cultivate an environment to where you can develop better self-esteem, really understand and recognize your self-worth, and learn how to really truly fall in love with who you are uniquely. I have certainly enjoyed this conversation and I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation with you. I'd love to have this conversation keep going. If you have any words of advice for anyone or myself that can help with these things that we talked about, if you're not currently subscribed, I would encourage you to do so that you don't miss out in the upcoming content that I have coming up. Until then, have a great one. You are enough. You deserve more than the bare minimum. And you can't allow the fear of being alone or the fear of losing someone or the fear of what if get in the way of you really sitting in and standing in your own power, in your worthiness. You have to get to a place to where you're so full and so good with your relationship with yourself. I really want you to get to know your value and what you bring, and stand on, like people say, stand on business when it comes to yourself, and not accept bare minimum. You're worth way more than that. You're unique, you're valuable, and you have to recognize and really get to know yourself, to know your value, so that you're not accepting bare minimum. You don't have to accept bare minimum. And so your threshold for acceptance, if it's not maintained by boundaries, you allow anything to happen.